their concerns about the climate. So I invite everyone that wants to join us tomorrow. You will be at council tomorrow at 1:30.
Yes, we will be.
So you can sit or stand, whatever suits you.
We'll stand, thanks. We'd just like to clarify, we're not presenting our petition today. Today we are presenting our demands of the council to you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you.
So I'm Elena
And I'm Maya, and we are the organisers of Gisborne Strike for Climate, which, as we have said, is happening tomorrow. We're doing a sit-in outside the council. So tomorrow, Gisborne youth are striking from school for the third time to demand climate action. When we strike from school tomorrow, we do so with people all over New Zealand and the world, participating in a global call for action from the world's leaders and from the New Zealand government.
This time, the strike for climate is intergenerational. Adults are joining us too. The Gisborne Volunteer Centre, Hikunai Cannabis Company, Eastland Community Trust, and Eastland Group are all closing their doors, and staff are coming to join the strike.
We have national demands of the New Zealand government, asking them to do everything in their power to limit warming to 1.5 degrees. But locally, we are striking for action from you, our local council. And this is why.
The way we have been operating for decades has been with the purpose of short-term economic growth, rather than long-term sustainability. We cannot keep operating like this. We must change in the face of the climate crisis.
World Bank has estimated that over 100 million people will fall into poverty in the next 10 years because of climate change. UNICEF estimates that in the next decade, climate change is going to affect about 175 million children each year around the world.
New Zealand's gross greenhouse emissions increased 19.6% from 1990 to 2016. New Zealand's share of the global greenhouse emissions is small, but our gross emissions per person is high. Just because we're a small nation and New Zealand is a small city does not mean we do not have a role to play in this climate crisis.
The economic cost of climate change for Gisborne will be huge. For individuals, for horticulture and agriculture, forestries, fisheries, tourism, and the health of our people. It will affect every aspect of our region. Increased floods and droughts will have huge costs for our local businesses and growers, let alone property owners. Sea levels are projected to rise 26 to 77 centimetres in the next 50 years if we limit warming to 1.5 degrees. This is enough to seriously affect Gisborne's coastline, low-lying properties, horticulture and agriculture lands. The poorest and youngest in our community will be affected the most by disease, extreme weather conditions, and strain put on food production.
Our production of emissions is increasing. We need to curb emissions to keep global warming below 1.5 degrees. But at the current rate, we're nowhere near this target. The consequences of stream flooding hitting an unprepared region were seen in Tolaga Bay last year. Climate change will only increase extreme weather events such as this, hitting us more frequently and with more intensity. And we will be the ones dealing with these effects.
And these are the effects with only 1.5 degrees of global warming, what we are trying to limit our emissions to. 2 degrees of warming has consequences that are far, far worse for everyone. We are striking because these are the consequences of your inaction, and they're falling on us. This is our home, and we have a responsibility to protect it.
We cannot stand see people suffering when we're in a privileged position to act. We must take action immediately. Tomorrow, when we strike, these will be our demands of you, the Gisborne District Council.
We demand that you do everything in your power to limit warming to 1.5 degrees to safeguard our right to a future on Earth.
1. We demand that the Gisborne District Council declare climate emergency in response to our petition, which has upwards of 500 signatures. The Gisborne community is behind us in this kaupapa, but we will not be presenting this petition today. A climate emergency declaration must acknowledge the magnitude of the climate crisis and will set the narrative for the urgent pace at which we need to act on climate change, but must uphold democratic values and obligations under the Te Tiriti o Waitangi.
2. District Council needs to put climate change mitigation and adaptation at the centre of all planning, development and council operations.
3. We demand that the Gisborne District Council put in place comprehensive adaptation plans to safeguard the Tairāwhiti region against the effects of climate change, in both short and long term, and construct these plans with consultation and input from the youth and tangata whenua. This will mean the Council can prepare for these consequences and take better action to lower our region's greenhouse emissions in order to mitigate them.
4. We demand the Gisborne District Council begin building community and ecosystem resilience now through regenerating the natural environment in Tairāwhiti, investing in local climate change education and projects, and developing more connected, smart and sustainable city design, including, but not limited to, making sustainable transport a safer and more appealing mode of transport for the Gisborne public.
The Gisborne District Council should be putting pressure on other councils throughout New Zealand and the central government through leading climate action in Tairāwhiti and acknowledging the urgency of the climate crisis.
Tomorrow we will strike for our futures. We hope you will take these demands with the seriousness they deserve and act before it is too late. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, councillors, any questions? Councillor Seymour.
Thank you very much for that presentation. In respect to council considering adaptation, have you asked any council officers whether or not it's something that we consider in our planning and policy now? Have you had a conversation with any council officers?
We
No.
have had extended conversations with many of the people around this table around climate change.
No, I
We
didn't
have
mean
had
around
direct
this table.
conversations with you, for example, or other people around this table about specifically climate change adaptation plans, but you can be assured that we have read up on currently what you have discussed in your meetings and what you have put in place so far, and we are satisfied that this is lackluster and it needs more strength and it needs more urgency because the crisis demands it.
Thank you.
Any more questions? If not, I invite all councillors to join us tomorrow. 12 o'clock you will start your march at Childers Road, and it will be at Council 1:30, and we will have a discussion, we'll talk, have question time, so I invite everyone to join us tomorrow. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.